So let's investigate the concept of culture. And culture is, let's start with the definition, is the behaviours or the experiences, the behaviours, the customs, and the viewpoints that are shared by a group in their environment. And the environment can be the natural environment, so as you see here, the climate, the natural resources, and the human environment. So here, like a little shelter, so the urban environment and other things. Okay, so let's explore culture in the knowledge area of globalisation and identity with these related concepts. So globalisation being the shrinking world of the increasing movement of people, goods and ideas, with the more transient national borders, more fluid borders, and with increasing exchange of, political exchange, economic, cultural exchange. And I guess obviously there's a debatable question of, was it ever really like this with completely separate countries, and how far is today different? But certainly the increase of the interconnectedness of the world, and then the impacts of this globalisation on identity, and particularly on cultural identity. So with identity, one way to analyse identity is with these 3 Bs: beliefs, behaviours, and become, so like perception of who we are as an individual and as a group, what traits, characteristics, etc. So our big research question, our to what extent question, to what extent has globalisation shaped the identity of third culture kids? Okay, so we've zoomed in on a particular area. So kids, so young people, third culture, so people who live in a culture other than their parents. Okay, so they're dealing with these multiple cultures as an increasing phenomenon that's been recognised as part of globalisation. The kids who are following these mobile workers, okay, which may be you. All right, so this is our question. You may have heard this term TCK before. All right, so our do. Plan an investigation process using the big 6. So we're working on our investigating skills, which is the IB criteria B. And we're using an ATL skill for research skills and approaches to learning skill, the big 6 research steps. So in this task, we're just going to look at step 1, 2, and 6. Define the task, identify strategies and sources, and evaluate the process. So we're not going to particularly have a product, as we won't actually locate the information, use the information, or communicate in this context. We are planning and evaluating an investigation process. Now, this is a key skill in the IB-MYP Individuals and Societies E-assessment at the end of MYP 5 that it really assesses this criteria B. So let's go. So ensuring that we formulate and justify a research question. Okay, so with this broad question in mind, you need to make it more clear and focused. You need to zoom in on who we're actually looking at, where we're looking at it. So this could be, third culture kids in Malaysian international schools. Okay, or third culture kids, or a particular question that relates to this in Fairview International School, Kuala Lumpur, or Subang. Okay, so you want to get really specific about nice, clear, and focused question that delves into an area of this. Not just the who, but also you could say what area of identity or globalization are you focusing in on? Is it about pop culture? Is it about migration? Is it about language? Okay, and then criteria B2, formulate an action plan to investigate. So here's where you identify your strategies and your sources. What are you going to do to find out information and make a conclusion about your question? Then you jump to the evaluating the process. Okay, so how do you evaluate the process, both today and in your future investigation? So to evaluate, you need to outline your method and your sample. And you need to outline how your method and your sample will ensure your research is valid and reliable. So you need to make clear, what is your method? How are you going to collect and record information? And who are you going to do it with? So if you have a population, say third culture kids, there'd be millions of third culture kids around the world. Are you going to talk to all of them? No. You're going to have a sample, a smaller sample of this bigger population. So which sample are you choosing and why? And why is that representative of the bigger population? What is this going to tell you? So how is your method and your sample, your how and who, going to help make sure that your research is valid and reliable, that it's a good and clear, reasonable method, and it will produce accurate results to really help answer your question and make generalizable findings. So when you think about your method and you're planning your method and you're evaluating it, you want to make sure it's systematic, that it is a planned thing, that you're recording it as you're going, and it's transparent, that other people could see your process and follow it step by step, maybe in a different context, and then find similar results. And your sample, what should you do for a good sample? Well, you want to make sure it's representative of the group that you are studying. You want to make sure it's random, that you're not deliberately picking certain people to get results that you want. And that it's real. One, it's real people, but also that it's real responses, or it's real information. It reflects a real situation. And that it's not impacted by you or your bias or poorly made questionnaire or other factors. To make sure that your method and your sample lead to valid and reliable research. So let's investigate the concept of culture with the related concepts of globalisation and identity. Let's explore how these things come together with third culture kids in a particular clear and focused area that you're interested in. Plan your investigation process and evaluate it using these big 6 steps so that you can be more self-regulated in your research now and into the future.